So yeah, just very quickly, a little bit about me. I'm Ellie. I'm social media manager here at Waggadah. I've been here almost 4 years now, which is crazy. Time has absolutely flown. But essentially, I work with our social media team to help clients use their social media strategically across various platforms and across various methods to help them achieve their business goals. And I'm hoping that the strategies and the tactics that we look at today, you can go ahead and implement in 2025 to achieve your goals on social media as well. So, as I said, looking at various different tactics and strategies today, we're going to be looking at the latest social media platforms and features that are set to dominate in 2025, and how you can really leverage them for maximum engagement and results. We're then going to move on to discovering how AI-driven tools can help enhance your content creation. So not only helping you create really successful content, but also really increasing your efficiency when you're creating content for social. And then finally, we're going to move on to monetizing social media in 2025. So we're going to be looking at things like the rise of social commerce, and also how you can leverage influencers and UGC to enhance your social presence. So I just thought we'd take a little step back just to understand the landscape a little bit, just so we know what we're working with. So social media users have now passed the 5 billion mark, and that's just in the past year increased by 266 million. So clearly, social media is a highly viable tactic for reaching a really vast range of people online. In terms of AI, we're now seeing 88% of marketers relying on AI in their current roles. As Dee was saying, we're absolutely embracing it at Waggadah, and it's something that we would urge people to add to their workflows and use to help them out. So yeah, I'm hoping today there'll be some nice takeaways that will put you in a place to be able to create your content more efficiently, and content that resonates using AI tools. And 73% of people are now actively shopping on social platforms. So people have been using social media platforms to shop for a while. Things like Instagram Shop have been around for a while. But over the past year or so, we've really been seeing it gain traction with the likes of TikTok Shop, for example. So we're going to go through how we can really tap into that in 2025. So starting with emerging platforms and features. Obviously, I can't cover everything. We would be here, all month, and even then it would change again. It's a landscape that's constantly changing, right? So I've picked out a couple key things I wanted to speak about today. We're going to look at LinkedIn for your personal branding. We're going to look at social media SEO, so optimizing our content for social media search. And of course, we're going to look at something I think has been one of the most dominating conversations over about the past year and a half, which is X, and are we heading for extinction, or in other words, should you as a brand still be using X? So X, so formerly Twitter, has experienced a 30% drop in usage from 2023 to 2024. I think this is for a number of reasons. Users are, growing frustrated with the content. There's reports of a lot more, hate speech in it becoming more of a toxic place to be. And I think Musk's divisive commentary has overall viewed people seeing the platform more negatively, and there being less trust in the platform. There's also reports of lots of bots on the platform. So if advertisers are investing in ads on X, they're not really seeing the results that they wanted to or used to because it's going to bot accounts. So those are all sort of reasons why people have been leaving X, and there has been a slight drop in usage. That being said, there are absolutely still brands utilizing X, generating results on X, and even investing in ad spend. So we're talking about brands like the New York Times, The Economist, even our client Dodd's Political Intelligence, who basically provide like up-to-date political updates, advise on like Parliament and policy. They're all still finding success on platforms like X, and that's because it's this short form, snappy content, real-time news updates and discussions that do still perform really well on these platforms. and you know, shouldn't be forgot about and can really still have value. So, you know, while we are seeing the user base go down slightly, they do still have a lot of users on the platform, and it still can be really a good tactic for certain industries and people who can do real-time news updates and discussions. That being said, what we have seen in the past few years is other options out there, so alternatives to X. So when I was thinking about what I was going to speak about today, you know, last month, I definitely thought I would be speaking about Threads, which is Meta's almost version of X, if you like. But actually, literally just as of a couple of weeks ago, we had a new competitor enter the chat, if you will. So this is Blue Sky, which has actually been around since 2019, but we've really seen it gain traction over the past few weeks in November. So in November, it saw 20 million users, and it was gaining 10,000 new users every 10 to 15 minutes. So clearly a lot of quick traction seeing people go to this platform. And I think really part of the reason for its popularity has been users seeking alternatives to Elon Musk's X. So it does have a very similar look and feel to the old Twitter. Like even the logo is quite similar to the old blue bird. But what it does have is the opportunity to create custom feeds that essentially allow you to curate feeds around the content that you love. So you have much more control over what it is that you want to digest. For example, if you really have a passion about cats, for example, you can curate that feed and get fed the content that you want. So yeah, very similar looking to X, even with the form of the feed. People are still using it for like short, snappy updates, as people have done with X. But yeah, this is all just to say, if you don't have an established presence on X right now, or you're no longer getting the results that you used to, it's definitely worth exploring these alternatives, or at least keeping an eye on their growth. I just wanted to say as well, there are benefits to all of these types of platforms where it is those real-time news updates and you're able to engage with your community just by kind of speaking to them. It's, they're quite different platforms from the likes of TikTok, for example, where it's all around content creation and creating really elaborate videos that might not be right for your brand, or, you might not have the time to do it, essentially. So these sorts of platforms, it's much easier to give your short content updates, and that might work really well for your brand. Also, as I said, really good for community building and engaging with your followers and building a loyal customer base. So it's not that X is completely pointless to be on, but maybe it's time to explore more options if this is the type of content that you're focused on at the moment, and this sort of engagement is what you're looking for your brand. So LinkedIn, I'd say unsurprisingly, LinkedIn continues to dominate social media for B2B, with 65% of people saying that they're going to increase their usage of it next year. There is loads I could talk about with LinkedIn, but what I wanted to specifically talk to you about is one of the benefits that I don't think sometimes is utilized enough, and that is building your personal brand on LinkedIn. So personal branding is essentially just the process of defining and promoting what you stand for as an individual. You can use this to help establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry, as an expert. It can really help to open opportunities to you as an individual, but also the business that you're representing. So, we often say LinkedIn, your personal profile on LinkedIn can often work as like a personal landing page to who you are, what you do, how you can help potential clients. And it's a great tool to help you really build relationships with people online, and also help you achieve your business goals. And working on personal branding is something that we work with quite a lot with our clients, and they've been seeing some really good success. So I mentioned that you developing your personal brand can support your business goals, and I just wanted to share a few stats to really support what I'm saying there. So Brand messages get 561% more reach when shared through employees' personal accounts than through the brand account. Content shared by employees receives 8 times more engagement than content shared by brand channels. Leads obtained through employees' social media convert 7 times more frequently, and 77% of consumers are more likely to buy when the CEO of the business actively uses social media. So what all of this feeds into is that customers trust personal connections over brand accounts. Personal recommendations are much more authentic, they're much more relatable. People buy people, they want to know what their opinions are, and they've built a relationship with someone, and they're far more likely to listen to you and engage with you when they know you more as a person. And ultimately, this can all feed into your wider business strategy. So this is, being on LinkedIn using your personal profile to develop is something that you want to do personally, and encourage your teams to do as well. And that is what we do at Wagda. Actually, we have really kind of encouraged employee generated content. We've even kind of incentivized it for our team. So, if someone does a LinkedIn post, they get a little treat afterwards. But that's all because it helps towards our wider business goals. Every single time one of our team members are posting, our brand is getting in front of hundreds, if not thousands more people. As I said, people engage more with real people than brands, so we're getting far more engagements on the content. And also every time they post about, going to a industry conference or speaking in their specialism, it's just helping to reinforce the message that we want to get across, that, we're experts in this field. What you can also do on LinkedIn is you can measure your SSI score, which is a social selling index. I've hyperlinked this, so when we send around the slides afterwards, you can click that and you can go and check out your own score, and do feel free to let me know what it is. But basically, this is a scoring system that ranks your personal profile on LinkedIn based on how well you are doing a number of things that all feed into building that personal brand on LinkedIn. So things like, are you sharing content? Are you sharing the right content? Are you actively making new connections? And then are you engaging with those new connections and building your network? Are you replying to people on your own posts and building those authentic relationships? And like I said, when we've worked with some of our clients on developing their personal brands on LinkedIn, they've gone away and have monthly check-ins with the teams, and they've turned it almost into a competition of who can increase their SSI score more. So yeah, it's just a really great way to kind of incentivize the team to be using their LinkedIn profiles to support the business as effectively as possible. The last thing I wanted to mention when speaking about building your personal brand on LinkedIn is don't be afraid to diversify your content. I think there's been a lot of talk in past years of, the importance of short form content, or, a text and image or a text and video post performing best on the platform. But actually, that's not always the case. So this is an example of one of our clients, NJC, who wrote a really great thought leadership piece about essentially prioritizing people in the cleaning industry rather than cutting costs, which is unfortunately what does happen sometimes in the industry. And while this was a LinkedIn article, so a longer form piece of content, more like a blog, it performed incredibly well because it really showcased them as thought leaders, showcased them as experts, and clearly people were engaged enough to read through the content and leave their thoughts and get involved in the conversation. So yeah, a big takeaway definitely is don't be afraid to test different features and keep people engaged. And just a note to say while I'm here, actually, when a platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, when it releases a new feature for you to use on its platform, definitely test it out. The algorithm, when they release a new feature, really boosts that new feature content. So you can kind of ride that wave a little bit while also testing out if different types of content work better for your audience. Cool. And then the next sort of trend or feature I wanted to talk about is that social media is a search engine. And nowadays, nearly 1 in 4 primarily use social media for searches. This is absolutely true for me. You know, if I'm looking for restaurant inspiration or I'm researching what to do on my next holiday, I'm definitely running to TikTok or Instagram and looking through those authentic experiences and getting really visual answers to my search. But it's not just Gen Z that are using social media for search. While 46% of Gen Z prefer social media over traditional search engines, we've also seen 35% of millennials do the same. So this really all supports that move towards people using social media as a search engine as time goes on. And this is something that we need to be on top of moving into 2025 as it's not going away. And that means that we need to be optimizing our content to be discoverable through search on social media. I thought it was a good time as well to mention that this is across multiple different platforms. So Instagram have recently removed the ability to follow hashtags. So again, this is really feeding into that trend that we're seeing, that hashtags are no longer the be all and end all. It used to be that if you kind of put a hashtag on your post, you would then get discovered by loads more people. But now it's not the hashtags that are so important. It's optimizing your content with those keywords because people are using it for search. Optimizing your content with the keywords allows the algorithms to pick up your content and serve it to the right people. So how do we go about this? I'm sharing this lovely video of my colleague Shah. I'm sure she'd be very happy with me for including this. But I like to use it because it's quite an old example of something we did where we optimized a video for keywords around Adobe InDesign, spacing issues, some stuff like that. And even to this day, when I go onto the TikTok app, it's got more saves or it's got more views. So it clearly shows that optimized content can continue to work for you even long after you've posted it. So in terms of how to optimize your content for keywords, we always say to speak them within the first 3 seconds of your video, write them on the screen, so like visibly on the video, write them in the caption in the first few sentences, and then also use them in your hashtags. So, hashtags not the be all and end all, but still can help to categorize your video. In terms of how to find keywords on TikTok for you to target, there is a TikTok Creative Center, which essentially allows you to look for different keywords and see if they're kind of trending upwards and downwards. But even easier, and what I like to do, is actually just pop into TikTok itself, into the search bar. Let's say I'm specifically looking for videos about a piece of production equipment. I can see what other people are looking for, and I can then go on to optimize my content further. So just on the subject of TikTok search, I wanted to share that they are testing this AI search at the moment. So this is their search highlights feature, which basically shows AI generated snippets at the top of your search results on TikTok. So what it does is, pulls information from videos based on if these videos have had lots of interactions, so likes, comments, shares, all of that, based on past search behavior. So what shows up for me might be different to what shows up for D, for example, but also it ranks it on information relevance. And this really backs up that keywords are that important thing that can get you seen when people are searching for terms on TikTok, because it's likely all of these videos that it's citing from have used some variation of the words that I've been searching for. So yes, keywords. And that sort of takes me nicely onto AI in social media. And there's 2 ways of sort of viewing how we can use AI when it comes to social media. Number 1 is for better results. So because you are able to personalize content more and generate content that performs better, you can generate better results, and also for increased output. I know we're all on time constraints. You might have multiple other aspects to your job. So any ways that we can increase efficiency through AI is, obviously what we want to be doing. So 90% of customers find personalized advertising appealing. Obviously this isn't surprising. If I get served an ad for a football boot and I don't play football, I'm going to scroll right past that, versus someone who actively on social media follows football, posts about football, is clearly into football, and gets served that. There's going to be more engagement and enhanced results. But yeah, using AI basically means that marketers, we can put our efforts into more targeted places and hit the bullseye quicker, reaching our audience and showing them exactly what it is that they want. So this kind of personalization in social media on the apps that you're using as users has been around for a while. It's not necessarily new. We've got the Instagram Explore page, for example, which shows very tailored content based upon things that you've shown interest in. This is actually a screenshot of mine, which I'm quite mortified to share with you because clearly I'm only interested in fast food and nothing else, which is not okay. But that's one example of how we've been kind of fed personalized content for a while now. But as time's gone on, there's been even more ways that platforms are producing personalized content for people. So here, for example, we've got Pinterest's got a body types filter, which basically allows people to search through clothes based on body types that are more similar to theirs, for example. So this hyper personalization is really helping to create tailored and better experiences for people on social media. And consumers are so used to this personalization that we really need to create content that hits first time, and that speaks to them directly. So what I wanted to show today was some tools that we can use to create better and more personalized content that's more likely to perform based on learnings we can get from content that's already out there. So this is TikTok Symphony Assistant, and it's basically an AI-powered assistant that can help you through the creative process. So I can put in a prompt, and it will feed stuff back to me based on the content that already exists on TikTok. So I can ask it, for example, to show me what's trending on TikTok. That's great if you don't have the time to spend your entire life on TikTok and keep up to date with all of the trends. I can gather inspiration on other people in the industry, so almost like competitor research, but from a really wide pool using this Symphony Assistant. And I can even ask it to write and refine TikTok scripts for me based on what other things have worked for other people in the past. So this tool is great to really gather ideas and inspo, but based on like a really wide data pool as well. So I've just included an example here of where I've prompted the Symphony Assistant to analyze top ads about holiday deals on TikTok. And what it's done is it's looked at a couple of videos for me and given me some key takeaways. So let's look at the first one here, for example, about the opening hook. So the first few seconds of these videos, it says that there is a sense of urgency and exclusivity. So, in the past, if I was looking to create a video about a holiday deal, me and the team might have had to produce multiple different videos where we test, do we include a sense of urgency? Do we not include a sense of urgency? Do we do that in the first few seconds, or do we leave that to the end of the video? But now I can see, based on real data from all other content out there, what is working best for people in the industry at the moment. So, saves us a lot of time on testing. Obviously, I would go away and I would still test things and make it, tailored to my brand. But we're now in a much better place to start that content, looking at how the consumer wants to digest that than we would have used to be without having those AI tools to hand. So that was a very TikTok focused example, but there are lots of other AI tools you can use for generating content ideas and gaining inspiration. So this is an example from ChatGPT, which launched 2 years ago now. ChatGPT, for those who don't know, is an AI chatbot that uses machine learning to generate human-like responses to my input. So you can see, for example, here I have put in the prompt that it should act as a social media manager for a cookie company, and I want it to come up with some content ideas for me. And you can see here it's generated some ideas for me. So great for ideation, it can be hard sometimes to think of a new piece of content and what to get out there. So it's a great way to come up with more ideas and really work with it to come up with creative ideas. Obviously, ChatGPT doesn't know you and your brand inside out. I would never ever recommend just like pulling something that ChatGPT has said and posting that on social media. We need to be fact checking it, and we need to be adding that human touch, definitely. But I did want to show you a tip on how you can actually get ChatGPT to understand your brand and your audience a little bit better, so that what it produces for you is more tailored to your brand and your audience's pain points than just a generic prompt. So something we've tested in the past is asking ChatGPT to ask at least 20 questions about my business, my customers, my audience, almost put it back on it so it works out what questions it wants to ask. And then you in turn can answer all of these questions before giving your prompt. So now if I ask it to generate some social media post ideas for the cookie company, it was going to be in a far better place to really understand like what my audience's pain points are, and what more tailored content I should be putting out there. But again, just a caveat, we do use this a lot for like ideation, and I would be very wary of just like copying and pasting things from ChatGPT onto social media. There are also lots of image generating AI programs that we've tested and that exist. This is an example of something we've created in Midjourney, so an AI program that creates images from my text description. So just as I put in a prompt there on ChatGPT, I can do the same thing here on Midjourney, and it would produce an image for me. I think where we've really found success with like image AI is kind of enhancing that content creation. So for example, here we've got an example of construction technology being used to transform the industry. Previously we could have maybe looked around the internet for an image like that, or maybe if we'd gone on site and taken some content, but here we were able to generate this image in Midjourney and use it to make our graphic more enticing. Without that, it would have just been the words. So again, it's just enhancing that visual content to make it much more engaging for the user. It's also great for things like more outside of the box concepts that potentially you'd have to get, a designer or a creative team to use in Photoshop, that kind of stuff. This is a great opportunity for you to use AI to create things that you can incorporate into your designs that you might not have been able to create before. I'm also about to show you an example of a video generation AI tool. We've tested things like Runway in the past, but yeah, I just wanted to show that big brands are using AI more and more, but they're doing it in a very specific way, and I just thought it would be an interesting one to show you. So just press play. So sweet. Suzuki's all with cross complete. Stars are lining in the sky. So you can see they've used it for a really recent Black Friday campaign, but they've used it in a way that it is very clearly AI. They're not trying to hide the fact that they're using AI, which I think is good because there's probably still a bit of mistrust with consumers in AI, but also video generation AI tools haven't quite got to that perfect point. I think if you rewatch this video afterwards when we sent around the slides and really look at people's hands, it's not quite got to that perfect seamless experience. But yeah, I just thought this was an interesting one to include from Suzuki. And just to say, big brands are investing in AI in 2025 for their content. So that is absolutely something that you should be looking at too. So yeah, as I've mentioned, we are integrating AI into a lot of our marketing process. processes, and we've done like plenty of projects and talks with people over time. So we do have a few more resources on our websites to do with AI. So you can either kind of scan that QR code, or again, when I send this round, that'll be hyperlinked. So yeah, definitely have a look at that if you want to integrate AI into like your wider marketing. Fabulous. Okay, so on to the final part of today's session, which is monetizing social media in 2025. So over time, we've really seen the melding of social media and e-commerce, and it's definitely a trend that's here to stay. So you might have heard the buzzword before, social commerce. Essentially, this is a form of e-commerce that involves the sale of products and services using social networking sites. So that would be instead of more traditional platforms like sending someone to your website or to Amazon. Just to give you a bit of background on the landscape of social commerce, in 2023, social commerce generated 571 billion in revenue globally. It's expected to grow to over 1 trillion by 2028. So, forecasted to grow massively. And in 2023, 18.5% of internet purchase came from social media. And again, this is forecasted to be even higher in 2024 and beyond. So, while it's been around for a while, we are seeing huge increases in the way it is being used today. I think one of the main reasons why social commerce is on the rise so much is partly to do with TikTok Shop. TikTok Shop launched in about 2021, but it's a great platform for selling things. There's a number of ways you can promote your products on the platform, or a number of ways that users can discover your products on the platform. So there's in-feed videos. So if you're just scrolling on TikTok, what looks like an organic video actually might be a shoppable video where a user can click on a link and buy directly from the video. We've also been seeing a lot of live shopping videos. Brands are seeing a lot of success from this at the moment because they can really showcase their products in real time and engage with the users and answer their questions there and then. And then there's also just the product showcase. So essentially the shop tab on TikTok, where you can actually like search for the exact products that you're looking for and scroll through them and decide which ones you want to buy. So when TikTok Shop first came around, it was super low value products that were on the platform. Things like noodles, things like cheap makeup, really kind of everything that was considered to be impulse buys. But recent trends are indicating a rise in more substantial products being sold on the platform, including things like electronics and fashion items. So I wanted to share this really interesting LinkedIn post with you. And this brand here sold multiple bags for over 6.5 grand each. So clearly there is a huge trend in and rising interest in higher value items on the platform. So yeah, I kind of just showing you this to showcase that it mimics the trend that social commerce is accelerating, and clearly these platforms are gaining more credibility as e-commerce platforms, as people are trusting to actually spend more on them. Part of the reason for this increased credibility and trust on TikTok Shop, I believe, is because of the affiliate program, which allows sellers to connect with creators to create commission-based product marketing content. So in this example here, if I'm scrolling through my feed, I come across this video of just someone who seems like a standard person talking about, in this instance, a game that they really like. It seems really authentic to me, it seems really genuine, but if I click this button here, what pops up is this window where I can actually then go ahead and buy this game from TikTok without even having to leave the site. So they've made the experience very seamless for these types of content. So these influencers do get a small cut. But if you are considering utilizing influencers in 2025 as an e-commerce brand, I would urge you to maybe consider using the affiliate program in this way to help you monetize in social media. I did also quickly want to touch on how You know, if you're offering a service, how you can kind of get engaged with TikTok in a e-commerce way. There are these things called TikTok instant forms. There's an example of one we put on James, talking about our HubSpot spot check offering actually. But these are essentially native lead gen forms on TikTok, so someone can immediately engage with your brand, fill in their details, and leave it with you to get in touch. But yeah, just wanted to showcase a way for you know, if you're a service brand, how you can get involved in this way. So obviously on the topic of social commerce, I couldn't not mention sort of influencers, as they have a significant impact on audiences' purchasing decisions. But really what I wanted to talk about is how the landscape has really shifted over time. And these days, 70% of people trust micro influencers more than celebrities. So, you know, it used to be that it would be like a few really high following influencers that took up all the space on the platforms. But now people are much more invested in niche communities with micro influencers, or even nano influencers, and building authentic connections with them. So a micro influencer typically has 10,000 to 100,000 followers, and a nano influencer has even more than that, even less than that, sorry. But like I said, they have incredibly niche and engaged audiences. So if you're considering working with an influencer in 2025, definitely go for a micro or a nano influencer to help, you know, tap into their really niche community. That being said, though, even better than a micro or nano influencer is user-generated content. So user-generated content, or UGC, is content created by users of your product or service themselves and published on social media. UGC is far more relatable and trustworthy than any other content online, especially, you know, brand curated content, and can really drive high engagement from people on socials. It's often shared organically, and it showcases people's real experiences, which makes it ideal for building credibility and community around your brand. So this is an example of a really exciting client of ours, Mystery Vacations. Essentially, with Mystery Vacations, you can pay a set price and you get entered into a random draw where you get allocated what vacation you'll go on, and within that price you pay, your flights and your accommodation are included. But they launched really recently, and one of our key goals was, you know, building that trust. Obviously, people are paying them money to go on a vacation that they don't even know the location of yet. So trust was such a key part of our strategy when they launched. And what we did here is we released a number of competitions on social media that, with all having the focus of creating user-generated content. This is just an example then of some of the content that we've seen off the back of those competitions. So not only is it great content that we can then repurpose on our channels, because as much as I would love to be able to fly to New York to get the content myself, obviously can't. And also they've posted this content to their followers who are already super engaged with the industry that they're posting, or the type of content that they're posting about. And you can see that we've got, you know, loads of engagement, loads of people now seeing the Mystery Vacations brand name who didn't necessarily know about them before. So if you weren't already sold on the idea of UGC, I just wanted to use this like big brand as an example, just to wrap up. This is Chili's, so a fast food chain in America. Using this one because it was just a really recent example, but they came out with a new menu item called the Triple Dipper. And I think this lady on the left was the first person to organically post about their new menu item on TikTok, just simply tasting the food. And as a response, there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of other people getting involved, showcasing their experiences, trying the product for themselves. I think like part of the beauty of UGC is that it sort of inspires other people to get involved. You know, Chili's didn't pay anyone here to post that content. It's more everyone, you know, not wanting to have FOMO and post their experiences online and get involved in the conversation. So Chili's CEO Kevin said that the Triple Dipper sales skyrocketed 70% over the last year. So just shows that the absolute power that user-generated content can have for your brand in getting in front of new people, and also therefore then impacting your sales as well. So if you haven't considered it before, I would absolutely integrate that into your strategy for 2025. Some key takeaways then. Number one, don't shy away from new platform features to keep your content fresh and really test out what it is your audience want to see and where they're spending time. Number two, use AI to create content that's tailored for your audience, but also to increase your output. And three, leverage the growing potential of social commerce in 2025. Just quickly before we go on to questions, I just wanted to highlight our next upcoming webinar in January, which is run by my colleague Steph and also one of our amazing clients, Precision Proco. We've got John coming on, who's the CEO. Precision Proco are a print company who work with some amazing brands globally, well, across the UK and globally. And they'll be talking about where print meets digital, so kind of how to drive leads with these strategies. So yeah, definitely feel free to sign up for that via our website. Now some time for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. That was super useful. Some really great insights. I've had quite a lot of questions come through as well. Let me just quickly, if anyone has any other questions as well, do feel free to ask anonymously or publicly. But if we just go through some of the ones now, Ellie. So yeah, one here. So there's obviously so many platforms in the space. You were talking obviously about threads and upcoming new platforms. How do you decide kind of which platforms to post on? So maybe like, how do you work out where your audience is actually spending time on social?
Yeah, definitely. It can be very overwhelming. There's a number of ways we can do it. Basically, number one, I would look at the current platforms you're on. You can see some audience insights in your analytics anyway. So if you go in there and have a look at the people you're reaching at the moment and working out if that aligns with who you think your target audience is or not. The next thing I would definitely do is have a look at competitors. They're trying to reach the exact same people as you, so you can take some learnings from where they're really investing more time into certain platforms. And then also just generally just doing some really good audience research, building sort of personas around your audience so that you really truly get to understand how they operate, what they're interested in, and where they're spending their time on social media. And that's probably another good example of where the likes of ChatGPT maybe can come in, where you can ask it more tailored questions and get to understand your audience in a really deep way to know where to spend your time on platforms.
Sure. Thanks, Ellie. Tia's just asked as well, do you have any info on which demographic is most active on Blue Sky? I know that's quite new at the moment.
Yes, I think it's predominantly slightly younger generations, maybe Gen Z to millennials. Other than that, there's not too much information out there other than like a bit of age split at the moment.
Yeah. I suppose that might change as more people get to use it.
Yeah.
It was interesting just from like an AI perspective, because I head up the AI department at Waggadah. And I think people have got to think about their bigger real estate across different platforms. And I was looking at a quote the other day, and it was something like 80% of Gen Z are now using TikTok as their preferred search engine. So they're not even on like Google anymore. So I think you've really got to think about where your target audience is, not necessarily how you search, but exactly where your target audience is, and then go for those kind of platforms. Another question, Ellie, we get this quite a lot. Should I post the same thing across all platforms, or can I post the same thing across all platforms?
It's a tricky one because it sort of depends on what your audience want to see on various different platforms. I would, where possible, recommend like repurposing the content. So instead of just blankly posting the same content across your platforms, there's ways you can tweak it to be more digestible and more relevant to not only your audience, but also how people consume information on the platform. So for example, turning something into a quick video for TikTok versus on LinkedIn, you could just like post a link to a blog, that kind of stuff, tailoring the content, even though the overarching like ideas are the same.
Yeah, sure. And how often should people be posting?
Um, different for different platforms. Something like X or Blue Skies very much is meant to be, short, sharp, quick updates. So, ideally multiple times a day kind of thing. Whereas LinkedIn maybe more like a few times a week. I think it's just about, showing up for your audience with your content. So as frequently as you can.
Sure. Let's see here. Do you have any tips for how you can build up a network or following on LinkedIn if you don't already have one?
Yes. Um, Good question. I think because it can be quite daunting, I think, as a if you don't have a starting point. Number one, I would say don't be afraid, like any networking events you go to just genuinely when you're speaking to people, ask to connect with them. They're in the same position as you where they want to build up their networks too. I think as well on the platform, obviously posting content is one side of things, but I think something that is super, super important and might actually sometimes get overlooked is the engagement side of things and building your network in that sense and building those genuine connections. We try and do like a little bit of a 3-2-1 challenge, we call it, where each day for 5 minutes in your morning, if you just engage with 3 different pieces of content, comment on 2 different pieces of content, and connect with one new person that's relevant in your industry. That's like a really nice organic way for you to build your network up over time, and also build connections with people, by commenting on their posts, and then they're likely to comment on yours, and you're actually building relationships through the platform.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Dan was saying here, Ellie, how do I stop people cold messaging me on LinkedIn? Do you have any tips for that?
Oh, honestly, no. I think unfortunately, with like in-mail, people can message you and get through to you. So I don't think there's actually much you can do to avoid that, other than just keep avoiding them, and hopefully they'll get the message.
Yeah, sure. Another question here. So you talked a lot about UGC, Ellie, and kind of B2C. Is there any way that people can use UGC from a B2B kind of business?
Yeah, definitely. I think like if I use Wagner as an example, it is obviously slightly different than getting your users to showcase your product, right? That is potentially easier, but things like every time we do a talk or go to an event where we present, or even our webinars, we sort of encourage people to share that they're learning from us, and that helps sort of position us as experts. And it's UGC in a way because they're posting about the talk that they went to by Wagner online. I think if not that, the next best thing you have is that employee generated content. So getting your team to be posting about their experiences and their expertise is equally as effective.
Awesome. And then Tia's got another question. Would it be useful to use AI Symphony Assistant to look at influencers in a specific field?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good idea. Obviously just for TikTok specifically. But I think you would be able to get lots of data about maybe like, who's performing well in which industries and what style of content they're using. Definitely.
Awesome. Another TikTok question. Is it better to post a polished video or can I post something that isn't aesthetically great?
Yeah, nice. Definitely on TikTok, we have more freedom to not be posting, highly, highly produced content, that's taken us hours to storyboard and map out and create. It is a more relaxed platform. I do think there does need to be a quality to what you're producing in terms of, is it doing what your audience wants? So like, does it have a hook? Is it visually engaging for them in order for it to perform well? But yeah, we can do, it doesn't have to be filmed by a video professional quality content on TikTok.
Okay, amazing. A few other ones here. think this is actually a really good one. So like with the rise of AI and people abusing the power of that in terms of, pushing out, a social post every day
Mhm.
that's just generated with the likes of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Do you think social media platforms will police it in the future in terms of like making brands be transparent, or, what do you think the future of that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already on a lot of platforms, you have to declare if it's a completely AI generated piece of content. And I think it's definitely needed. There is kind of the worry of what people can do with like deep fakes and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think the platforms at the moment, they're probably still just catching up because it is so fast moving and quick paced. But yeah, I think that will have to be policed by platform.
Awesome, cool. Sorry guys, there's quite a lot of questions coming in, so I don't think we'll get to everyone, but obviously feel free to connect with Ellie afterwards and
Yeah.
she can answer any of your questions. But I've got two more here. What about shares on LinkedIn from an employee profile rather than a physical post? So I think what they're saying there is if you post on the company platform and then kind of share it from your own profile, is that good or?
Well, it's good to support the brand account, of course, as an employee. It's even better for you to be posting your own content as well, because then there's more content and it's being seen by more people. I'd also say generally engagement on a brand account, things like a comment or a reaction can actually go really far because shared content doesn't always perform as well.
Yeah, okay. And finally, how do you kind of encourage team members to post on their socials then? And should you be policing it?
Bribery. No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's kind of like um I think getting them to understand the benefit that it has to them as well. Like it's a great development tool for them. It can open opportunities for them in the long term. Um, I yeah, getting them to understand like the benefits for them. In terms of policing it, an interesting one. I think there needs to be some understanding that they are representing the company, obviously. So you know, posting rogue stuff wouldn't be okay because as much as it's their personal profile, it is attached to the brand's profile as well. But I also would give them a bit of freedom to showcase their personality as well. It's people are forming connections with them. So, let them have some freedom and creativity.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Ellie. I am just going to put in a link to Ellie's LinkedIn account as well, so that everyone can go and, feel free to ask a few more questions. Just kind of running out of time here, our end. But what we will do is we will share the recording. We've got everything recorded, and we can share the slides if people would benefit from that as well. But do feel free to connect with Ellie on LinkedIn and ask away any questions.
Yeah.
And likewise, if the HubSpot kind of free check will support you in your kind of role or your business, do feel free to get in touch. We'd love to support you with that. But thank you, Ellie. That was super useful. Loads of tips. And hopefully 2025 we'll see a lot of businesses succeeding in the social media area.
Definitely. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Bye bye.